Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Since I had my Tesla Model Y on Monday, it's been several days. I've been thinking about the battery and the range, and I drive the car a few times, trying to understand how much energy used. Uh, so I did some quick research and wrote a couple questions. Hopefully, this will help me understand the battery and also help most people understand it. This is not intended for engineering discussion. It's more of a basic calculation. So let's start with the assumption of facts. So the question is requires the use of the six things I have listed here. Uh, if any of these assumptions is not correct, or they can be changed, just the number will be changed proportionally. So they're pretty straightforward. First of all, the battery size for Model Y is 75 kilowatt hour, of which 72.5 kilowatt hours or 72,500 watt hours is used for driving. There's 2.5 kilowatt hours is reserved for other purposes. So the true usable battery is not 75, it's 72.5. Based on the sticker, the EPA has estimated range of 316 miles. That's a lot. For Model Y, when Model Y was announced, it was 280. Then later they updated it to 316 to make it better. Also, I noticed that whether AC is on or off will make a difference. So I assume the AC power is 5 kilowatts or 5,000 watts when running at 100% capacity. Most of the time, as you noticed, even AC sending cold airs, it's not necessarily running at 100% capacity, and it's not running at always. So the actual number will be discounted, of course, significantly. The other things, there are other electronic components that's going to be using energies. Those are pretty small, so I'll just ignore them for this purpose. So the energy consumption from lights, music, and even central modes are just assume they're non-existent or not used at all, like fans as well. Tesla, for electricity, people tend to use kilowatt for the power, but for car, most people would refer the car power as horsepower. So there is one direct translation between kilowatt and horsepower. 1 horsepower is 746 watts or 0.746 kilowatt. And the Model Y horsepower for dual motor is 440 horsepower. This is approximation. I've seen this somewhere on YouTube. It's close enough. So the first question is, if I want to get 316 EPA estimated miles, how much energy per mile is consumed? Because this information, the energy per mile consumed is available in when you look at the Tesla monitor at the bottom left, it's always going to show this number. I have circled it here. This is just a one trip. I had 3.2 miles in 8 minutes. The energy use is 307 watts per mile. So to get this answer, the formula is total usable energy divided by range. It's that simple. So the total usable energy is 72.5 kilowatt hour or 72,500 watt hour divided by EPA 316 miles. So that's 229.43 watt hour per mile, or just round it up to 230. So the battery energy use, if it exceeds 230, then you won't get EPA estimated 360 miles. Say if you're using twice as much, say 460 watt hour per mile, you're only going to get half of the distance. This is all proportional. That's the first question. So just watch this number. This is the most important number you need when thinking about the range. The second question is, so if my trip energy use is only 185 watt mile, then what's the total range or theoretical? And it's same thing. So basically, the total energy use divided by per mile energy consumption, then that gives you the range. This is another trip I had because it was pretty slow, as you can see. I spent 12 minutes, only drove 4 miles. So the average speed is like 20 miles. It's very slow with the fan off, AC's off, and the radios turn off. I can get 185 watt hour per mile. And based on this calculation, the total usable energy is 72,500 watt hour divided by 185 watt per mile. That gave me 392 miles. So that's a very long. But keep in mind that this assumes I'm only driving at 20 miles on average. So if you go that slow, the range can be pretty long. It can exceed EPA range. But 20 miles, it's more like local driving. So this is another way of saying the EV car is good for local driving. If you use it for commute, there's a lot of stop and go. This is pretty good, not necessarily on highway. The next question is related to air conditioner. So the third question, if AC is on say 50%, the 50% can be interpreted as either running 100% but only on 50% of the time, or just running at 50% of capacity on all the time. It's a combination. Or any combination that gives you that number. And my average speed, here the average speed matters, so there's another number required. So assume I'm driving at 30 miles per hour, then how much additional energy is needed per mile just for the AC? And to get that answer, it's AC power divided by the speed. So the AC power actually used is 5,000 watts times 50%, if it's only 50% of capacity, divided by 30 miles per hour. That's the speed, which will give you 83 watt hour per mile. So the answer is there's additional 83 watt hour per mile is required just to power AC if your AC is on at 50% and you're going at 30 miles. Of course, if the speed changed to 60 miles, then the number dropped to half. And if the speed is down to 15 miles, you double this energy required. And one of the interesting thing is, okay, if my current use the previous example, my current energy use is only 185 watt hour per mile. It's pretty efficient. Then once I turn on AC at 30 miles per hour, then the energy consumption will increase to 260 watt per mile. So what that means is the effective range will be reduced from 392 to 271 miles. So there's pretty significant reduction in the range if AC is on a lot. 50% is pretty aggressive. The next question is more related to horsepower, because people generally talk about the cars in horsepower. So the fourth question is how many horsepower hour is a battery? So just measure the battery in terms of horsepower, or how big is the battery relative to the car's power. You can think of that way too. So the battery energy in kilowatt hour divided by 0.7426, that's conversion factor, you get to horsepower. So it's pretty simple. So the usable battery is 72.5 kilowatt hours. If that number divided by a conversion factor of 0.746 kilowatt hour per horsepower, that translates to 97.2 horsepower hour. Means the battery has 97.2 horsepower hour. So if it runs at a 97.2 horsepower, it will go for 1 hour. That's what it means. Another way to look at it is the Tesla motor has 440 horsepower. That's a lot. And if the battery is only 97.2 horsepower hour, then if you're running at full capacity, full horsepower, it will only last 0.22 hours or 13 minutes. That's how long the battery will last. Of course, if you think about when do you really need the 440 horsepower, even when you do 0 to 60 seconds at to 60 miles, uh, that's not the 440 horsepower. That's below 440 horsepower. So the speed is pretty low, uh, and that only takes 5 seconds. And so even for 13 minutes, uh, if you accelerate from 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, the 13 minutes can last for like 150 times. So that's also a lot. That's another way to look at it. The last question is, okay, what's the sort of the normal horsepower the car is using, even though the car is rated at 440 horsepower? What's the actual normal driving horsepower? So if my car is using, say, 230 watt hour per mile at a speed of 40 miles per hour, then what's the actual horsepower that the car is using? To get the answer, it's per mile energy in watt hour times the speed, then divided by the conversion factor. So the per mile speed, the per mile energy use, 230 watt hour times your speed, 40 miles per hour, then divided by 745 watt per horsepower, that gives you 14.15 horsepower, which is pretty small. So when you're driving at the 40 miles and your energy consumption is 230, the horsepower used is only 14, little over 14 horsepower. That compares with 440 horsepower the Tesla Model Y is rated at. It's nothing. So all this means is, even though Tesla is a very powerful car, you're not using the power most of the time. And for the normal power consumption on the day-to-day use, it's pretty small. If you plan to use the Tesla's motor at full capacity, the battery is way too small to be meaningful. That's it. These are some simple questions. Leave a comment. Let me know whether you agree or disagree. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I'll have more updates in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.